Hi, I'm just going to do a quick demo of Zing and how you can use it to prototype some animations. So I'm going to start out by creating a new project. I'll just call this animations. Okay, so I've created this project. What I want to do is actually simulate or replicate a couple of the animations that I found on a website. Oh, here they are. I'm going to start out with something similar to this loader one. So 3 bars and then they grow and shrink in size. Hopefully we can improve on this a bit, but we'll see how we go. So let me take you through the different parts of the interface before we get started. So along the left hand side here, these are the projects that you have open. At the moment we've just got one open, which is the one I just created. It's called animations. Let's say we don't like that name. Let's say we call it loading. Let's just call it loading for now. So this is like the loading indicator. So that's the name of the project. Here's project settings, fonts and colors, inspector, share. And down below that, you've got a list of all of the Zing files that are part of this project. At the moment, we've just got one called app. This is the design canvas, and this is the view that we're looking at. And at the moment, we're designing for iPhone XS. If you wanted to, you could design for smaller screen sizes, but let's go with XS. It doesn't really matter for what we're doing. And over here on the right, you can see a simulator. And this is showing us real time what we're doing. So if we go in here, for instance, we might change the color of this, and in real time you can see that it's changing in the simulator. So one of the great things about Zing is that as you design stuff, you're seeing a live representation of how it will look and behave in the simulator. And you can actually connect this through to your phone if you want. So if you have I'll just fire up Zing Preview on my phone, and here you can see that my phone appears here, and I can actually just connect directly through to my phone, and then I can be designing live on the Mac or in Zing Studio and seeing the results immediately on the device that I'm targeting. But we're going to stick with the simulator for now because it's easier to do with screen sharing. Okay, so let's get started. What I might do is I might just set the background color to be, I don't really want it to be that dark, maybe something like that. And well, just because I'm a bit nitpicky, let's change the color of the status bar. Not important for our demo, but it just looks better like that. Okay, let's create the first element. So we want to create an element here that will be the loader itself. So you can right click on here, or you can choose new from up there. We're just going to create a new element, and this new element we're going to call loader. Actually, let's call it loader 1, so that we can if we want to make more, we can tell them apart. Okay, now why don't we start out by giving it a size. Let's make it 300 by 300. Okay, so there's our loader, and it's got a white background at the moment. So if we go back to app and we grab this loader, we can actually just drag it into our canvas and plonk it on the screen, right? And as you can see, we've put that element that we just created, we've just plonked it on the screen, and it's appearing in the simulator. Now, we don't really want it to have a white background, so we'll go in here and we'll set the background to be transparent. Actually, let me leave it white for now, but we will set it to transparent later. We'll see what's going on. What I might do is I'm going to switch over to code mode. So there's design and code, and as you can see, these two things represent the same thing. So if you look over here, we've got a white rectangle, and we set the width to be 300 by 300. You go over to code, you can see this is a rectangle, its height is 300, its width is 300, and its color is white. So the things that we do in here, so if I was to add a new rectangle, and inside this rectangle, and I'll say the width of this is, I'll say 16 wide, and the height is 100. you can see there that we've got a rectangle there, and by default it's black, but let's make it green. Okay, so now we have a green rectangle. Now if I look over in the design tab, you can see there that we have a green rectangle. We could have dragged out a rectangle from here, which we can do if we want to, and you can see there that that's appearing there with the same properties. But let's do it in code, because it's actually sometimes it's easier to do it this way, because well, I don't know, you can do it either way, it doesn't really matter. So we actually want 3 of these rectangles, right? So we want 3 rectangles for our loader, right? And you can see that I've created 3 rectangles, but you can only see 1 rectangle. That's because they're stacked on top of each other. We could drag them around, so we could drag them out like that. You can see there that we dragged 1 and now it's got an X of 24. But let's do it differently. Let's put them all inside a row. Okay, so we're going to create a row. And what a row is, it's like a horizontal stack of items. And we can give it properties like spacing. Right, so now we've got a row of these things and they're spaced out like that. We could have done that in Designer, but to be honest, I find for things like row and column, it's kind of easier to do it in code. You can swap between these as you like, and generally speaking, you can do what you can do in Design, you can do in code. You can do stuff in code that you can't do in the Designer, but you can do most of the basic stuff in Designer. Well, actually, let's center this. Actually, before we go any further, let's anchor this thing into the center of the screen. Okay, so now it's centered, and let's go around and set this to transparent. Transparent. So we're getting kind of closer to what we had here. 3 things now. They don't have a radius, but let's set a radius on these. Okay, so the width is 16, so we want a radius of 8, and you can see there that that's done that. And you'll notice here that I'm copying and pasting. While you can do that, that gets not only is it a little bit tedious to do that, because we want all of these 3 rectangles to actually have the same properties. It's potentially error prone down the track. Like if we had lots of these and then we want to change the width of one to be 20, we'd find that, oh, okay, now we've got to go and change them all to 85 or whatever. So what you can do that's really handy is we can create a new element type, and we'll call this a bar. You can call it what you like, but whatever. And we're going to just grab that, and we're going to paste it in here. And let's get rid of those for now. So we're back to having just a row. We've created an element called bar, and it has the properties that we want our bar to have. So it's a width of 16, a height of 100, it's green, and it has a radius of 8. Okay, now we're just going to create a new bar. Okay, another bar, another bar. There you go. So now we've got the same thing, but instead of having to type this out for each one of these bars, we've just typed it out once. And now if we wanted to make these narrower or wider, or actually what we really want is the radius to be half of the width, right? So we can say width divided by 2, and now no matter what size we make them, they have the right width. You know, change the height, whatever we want. Okay, cool. So that's the first part of what we're doing. I guess the next step is that we want to animate these. We want them to go up and down. Let's try and work out how we do that. We're going to have to control the heights of each of these bars independently, right? So we can't just be controlling this height, because when we do that, they all change at the same time. Sorry. So we're going to have to give these a name so that we can refer to them later. So let's just call this bar 1, and we'll call this one bar 2, as bar 3. Okay, cool. So we've got now three bars, and they've got unique names, and then we can refer to them. We're going to create an animation. Let's do them sequentially at first. So what that means is we're going to animate one, we're going to animate the next one, and then the next one, and we're going to do those animations one after the other. Okay, so we'll use an animation tween, which is a standard animation term for an animation between two values. So we take a property, whether it be the height or the width or the color or anything, radius, opacity, etc., and we take it from one value to another value. So this animation tween, we're going to say that we want to target bar 1 dot height, and we want to go to, let's make it 200. Okay, so we've done that. Let's give this animation a name. So I don't know, let's call it animate. And what we want to do is when this starts up, we want to run this animation. So start, we want to start, and there you go. I'll restart that so you can see what happens. So when I restart the simulation, immediately bar 1 grows to 200. So let's set this row to have a height of 200. So now when it animates, you can see that it's doing that. So let's also do this anchor center Y. We'll anchor all of these to the middle of the thing. So that means that they're anchored, they're centered on this box, like in here. So they're centered there, and when it animates, it's animating up like that. All right, let's do the next one. Bar 2, and we'll do bar 3 as well. Okay, so it's doing that. So it's 1, 2, 3. If we copy these again, and instead of the second time around, we'll go back to 100. Okay, so you can see that it animates up and then it animates back down. We actually want this animation to keep looping. So we can just do loops, and either you can do like 3 loops or 10 loops or whatever you want. But if you set it to -1, it'll just loop forever. It will just continuously loop back up, round and round and round. So that's starting to look pretty similar. I mean, obviously it's a bit taller than what it was in the example, but you can see there that we've done that animation. And look over here. This is the element, and here it is actually animating as we've done it, as we've created it. Now, the fact of the matter is that doesn't look terrific. And actually, you can see here we've got a whole bunch of repeated properties. So what we can do, what's a good idea normally is we'll actually create a property in here. I'll gloss over the types, but a number is either a type. It's a type int or a float. So ints are whole numbers and floats are decimal point numbers. So we'll say starting size 100, property int, and size. Well, let's make it start size and end size. Okay, so wherever we have that, we're going to replace it with animate dot end size. We'll just replace all these 200s with that. And the reason I'm doing this is that we can then change those very easily. And we want to replace this with animate dot start size. Okay. Now the cool thing is if we just say, 200 is way too big, we actually want it to be like just 120. We can change that around and they all change. 140. 40, whatever we want. Now you'll notice if you look carefully, that looks pretty mechanical because that's using the default tween curve, the easing curve, and that's linear. And generally you want to avoid linear curves. It's very rare that you want to use a linear curve. So let's create a new property here of type easing, and we'll call it, let's just go with easing dot sine. We can play around with this later. Okay, but now for all of these tweens, we're going to set a different easing curve, right? So let's do easing animate dot easing. We actually want that on all of these. Let me put it there. Oops. Can't quite get that right. Okay, there we go. So now we've got if we make this bounce, you can see that they're bouncing at the end, or we could use spring. You can see that each time we change that curve, it behaves differently. What's it called? So if you do this easing dot, you can see back. So that's where they go over the top. Now, oops, I've hit caps lock somehow. Property int duration. Or make it, let's make it 500. And down here for all of these, we're going to set the animation duration to now. There is a way to avoid all this copying and pasting as well, but I don't think we need to go into that right now. We'll just do it this way. It's maybe more obvious. Okay, so now all those curves are happening with a duration of 500, but we can make it 200. They're a lot quicker. Make it 1,000. They're a lot slower. Now, one of the problems you can see there is that they happen one after the other. What we really want them to do is one of them to start happening before the other one's finished, right? So, in order to do that, we'll have to animate each one of those bars in parallel rather than sequential. So let's go around and change that. So if I change this to parallel, it's going to act a bit weird at first. As you can see, it's not really, it's both animating it to the start size and the end size at the same time. So we want to do these, animate sequential. We'll get the other, so bar 1, we want this one in here. Animate, oops. Animate sequential. Where's the other bar 2? Bar 2 is there. Oops, keep hitting the wrong arrow key. And animate sequential. Okay, now they're all happening at the same time, which is what we'd expect. They're in parallel. But what we want to do is add some delay. So let's add some animation delay. We'll add it to this one first. So animation delay, duration, actually, let's make it 100. Okay, that's for that one. We'll copy that little block there, put it down here, and we'll make that 200. You can see that that's already looking a bit better. I think our duration's a bit long. Let's make it 500. Not 5 seconds, let's make it 500. one issue is you can't really do back animation on Roku, although there's been a bit of talk about how it might be possible, but right now it's not possible. I don't believe. So let's use sign. Yeah. Okay, so that's that. Let's make the start size a bit smaller. Let's make the start size. Actually, let's not make it 10. Let's make it 16. So it's going to start out. That actually looks kind of interesting, I reckon. Let's leave it at that for now.